Hello, it's Dr. Edward, the Healing Vet, here for your weekly free holistic vet pet health show. So this week I thought I'd do something a little bit different and share a little bit of my journey and how I became a holistic veterinarian and how I developed the whole energy body balance, healing body work and energy work, modality and all that sort of stuff, because life is kind of unexpected, and I haven't ended up anywhere where I thought I would, anything like where I thought I would end up when I was younger. I was born in Charters Towers, which is a town inland from Townsville in North Queensland, and grew up on a cattle property called Toomba Station, about 60 miles or 100 kilometres from the Charters Towers, which is the nearest town. So I was the eldest son in a family that had been on the land in Australia. I would have been 5th or 6th generation if I'd ended up staying and working there. So when I was younger, I was very, very passionately interested in working with horses. We had an extensive cattle property or ranch for you guys who are in the States or Canada, and we had a lot of very rough rocky country, so you couldn't really drive over it on motorbikes and things like that. So what we did was we did all our stock work on horseback. We bred and competed on Australian stock horses. We had anything from 120 to 90 depending on whether or not we'd had a clearance sale in the last little while, and I was really fascinated with working on horses, training horses, that sort of thing. Now, what I got taught when I was young was really pretty terrible stuff, very brutal ways of making horses and animals do what you wanted. Fear and pain, fear and pain, fear and pain. Hobbles, sidelines, whips, yeah, not very lovely way to interact with animals at all. So I had to, I got taught a lot of the things that I've had to unlearn later on in my life. But when I got into my teenage years, I got really interested in natural horsemanship. I came across the work of Monty Roberts, the man who listens to horses. And Monty Roberts has had a profound influence on my life. I started applying his methods in working and training with the horses that I was partnered with on the property, and found that, glory be, I could communicate with horses in a way that they understood, and I could build a connection and teach horses how to work with me in a way that did not require fear and pain, but worked on communication and trust and connection. Then I went up to university, and I went off to university to do a veterinary degree because I thought, wow, you know, a veterinary degree would be the best degree I could have to take back to the family farm, the family ranch. And at that time, you know, that was the only thing that I could see in my future, was to go back and take over the property, run the property. Because I loved working on the land, I loved that life, and it was really amazing. So I went to university, I spent 6 years at university, graduated with a Bachelor of Veterinary Science in 1995. Then I went right across the other side of the country, about as far away as I could get from my home without going into the ocean. It took, you know, a week or more to drive from my home to my new job, and and that funny sound, if you can hear it, is my washing machine. Apologies for that. Hopefully it won't be too loud. And I worked in mixed practice, in a practice with dairy, beef, small animals, horses, in Western Australia, south of Perth, near Bunbury. Unfortunately, it was a diabolically awful job, in that the people I worked for just weren't great. So I lasted about a year and a half there and said, I'm out of here, I cannot put up with this awful treatment any longer. And when I went up to Geraldton, which was a little town a bit north of Perth, and did a locum job for a little while there. While I was in Geraldton, I met another vet who truly changed the course of my life in the space of an afternoon. This fellow came up to work on some horses. He's a fellow called Dr. Tom Ahern, and he had worked out this method of working on horses' necks. He would take horses that had a forelimb lameness, that had been nerve blocked and x-rayed, and tried to diagnose what's going on by multiple vets. They could not find anything wrong. Tom would take them, anaesthetise them, stretch the neck in a particular way that he'd worked out, and the lameness would go away. So he was a very generous, lovely fellow, and he gave me a lot of his time and knowledge in that couple of hours we had to spare in that afternoon. Gave me a masterclass in how, if the neck is out of alignment and you get subluxations and nerve root compressions, it can cause all sorts of problems where those nerves go out to in the body. And my thought was, well, what about dogs and cats? Because they got necks and backs too, right? And I didn't get taught anything about this at university at all. It was, the physical examination process that I was taught at university when it comes to assessing animals for neck pain, back pain, soft tissue and neurofacial pain is frankly useless. And I suspect what's being taught to most vets these days is still pretty useless at picking up those things. So I started feeling into the animals' bodies, sinking in, feeling deeper to find out if I could find pain, tension, restriction from healthy movement. And I started finding a lot very quickly. As soon as I really started searching for it with my hands, the animals showed me very quickly that there was a whole lot going on there that they needed help with. And then, of course, once I started finding pain and tension and dysfunction, I really wanted to do something to relieve that. So I started using my hands to work into those areas and invite healthy movement and release pain and tension. And I started getting some pretty good results pretty soon. There were no trainings in those days for me to go off and learn how to do anything hands-on bodywork like that with animals. So what I did was I just